to see all that I can be. Moving on the block.
Woo, so welcome to Move Beyond the Block. Listen, this is the first episode of season, I don't even know what season this is. There have been so many iterations of this podcast, platform, show, whatever you want to call it. I've been in a constant journey, cyclical journey. But the purpose and intention remains the same, and that is so that black women and black girls specifically, and black people learn to move beyond the blocks that are blocking our shine in life and our liberation. And as I think about the liberation of our people, I just think of how it's so cyclical, and how it requires so much of us to tap in and tap out, how it requires us to have community, and how it requires us to lean into our intrinsic technology and to our intrinsic creativity and our culture and our traditions. And so that's what I want to talk a little bit about with you all today, how that's been my journey and what role it's playing in my journey so far, and how this place, this space that we're creating here, the voices that we can amplify will help us to move beyond those blocks. So I'm glad you're here. As I was saying, there has been so many iterations of this. This started as companion show to the book that I wrote, Move Beyond the Block. Move beyond the block, moving beyond the habits that are blocking our shine in life. This book that I self-published in 2018, that whole promotional push for that book, it's in its fourth print right now. And that's I think 300 books each time it's been published, and so each printed. So we're at 1,200 books sold. But the real push for that had to pause. Life happened there as well, with one of my nephews facing incarceration in a trial that we had to go through. So that paused a lot of the movement around the book. But then that same fall of 2018, my idea for a show was picked up by a radio broadcast company and had a great run on there. That came to an end in 2019, and then obviously 2020, the world was on fire, and even then, still, in the midst of that, in the spring of 2021, I picked this up again to start another rendition of this. And I have to say that just with all of the world being on fire for what it was, Derek Chauvin was being sentenced at the time for his murder of George Floyd. There was so many other things happening. I was heading up a lot of mutual aid and coordinating a lot of mutual aid here in the city of Chicago. Also at the time, my organization, there was a lot of visibility for what we do. And that brought on a good thing. It brought on a lot of funding, but with funding comes a lot of requirement, and the requirement to be present and in compliance required so much of myself to be present. And then in all of that, right, I had the audacity, I had this wild idea to go back and pursue my master's degree. And so I pursued my master's of social work in the fall, which took me 3 years to really be present, to be in the mind frame of studying. Mind you, it had been 27 years since I'd been in any classroom in an academic setting, pursuing a degree. And then 27 years ago, you have to know there was no online learning. And so this whole online learning in the middle of a pandemic, it just was crazy. So much of my life had been commandeered by the growing, by the challenging myself, the stretching myself, the being prepared for what I'm called to do. And so a huge break in between there, not to mention after, right? I finished the master's in 2024. Then, towards the end of 2024, got accepted into the Community Violence Intervention Leadership Academy. Shout out to my brother, the modern day Benjamin Mays, Dr. Chico Tillman, and that program through the University of Chicago, which was 5 intense months. With some of the most brilliant, my brothers and sisters of PX3, most brilliant people around the country. But that was intense. Traveling every month for 5 months, intense studying and learning and researching, capstone preparation. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I have to say that when I finished that, or during that time, also my organization took a lot of hits. So the overflow, the flooding of funding that we got in response to the social unrest and recognizing how Black girlhood and storytelling is so vital, those dollars, those commitments were pulled back. And so in the midst of that, having to figure it out for my organization of how to sustain us, how to move past this hurdle. In the midst of that, recognizing that I was absolutely burnt out. Not just from those things that I mentioned, but from a lifetime of, I didn't know I would almost cry over this. But almost a lifetime of figuring it out. Figuring out for myself and everybody around me. A lifetime of being expected to have the answers. A lifetime of only feeling worthy when I did have the answers. And so I've gotten to a point where I don't want to have the answers. I want to be discovering the answers, rediscovering myself in the finding of the answers. I want to be able to say, you know what, I don't know. I can't answer that for you, or I can't solve that for you. That's where I'm finding a lot of joy. And let me backtrack. So my purpose, or I should actually, my therapist helped me to understand also my identity, right? My identity was shaped when I was about 10 years old. And it's funny because it wasn't when I was 10, I was 9 going out the summer that I turned 10. But that summer, we stayed with my father. My father had a girlfriend at the time, who, let's just say, it wasn't a good situation. And she called herself disciplining my sister in a way that my mother would never discipline my sister. Like, she tied her up to a chair. It's a long story. I won't go into it. You can read the book or just keep following. I might share more of this later. But I decided that my sister and I would not stay in that environment. We would not stay in that space. And we would go home to my mother. And so I was 9 years old on the south side of Chicago. I took my little sister, who is 18 months younger than me. So I packed up our things as we could. I had in our mind, we had the Woody Woodpecker, when the hobos, when they would put the things in this knapsack, bandanas kind of knapsack, and put it over his shoulder. So we thought that that's what we would do. We had a stick in our bags on our shoulders. Anyway, long story short, 5 miles from the place my father was staying to our home. Started walking at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This is towards the middle of summer, so we get home right at dusk. It's starting to get dark. And that's when I realized and crystallized for myself that I would absolutely be a protector and an advocate for my sister, for other girls, for myself, that I would never ever stay in a space that was not affirming, that a space that was not safe and sacred, and that I would create that space. And so that's where I've been I've turned 50 this summer, the summer of 2025. And so what is that? 40 years that I've given to being this person who has to stand in the gap, protecting and placing myself in harm's way many times, emotionally and physically, for the protection of other people, the advocacy of other people. And I've worn that with a badge of honor. I've worn it as not having a choice to do it. It really is my life assignment. I truly believe that. But I also know that there are some other things that I was assigned to do in this life. And I know there's some other ways to achieve that assignment. And it doesn't always require me to use my body. It doesn't always require me to sacrifice my peace of mind. The other piece of it is, and please, I'm throwing this caveat out right now. If you respectability, if you have any affinity to American standard of political systems, if you have any allegiance to colonization and to the institutionalized way of doing things, you might be a little uncomfortable. I'm going to invite you to stay and welcome you to stay, but you might be a little uncomfortable, especially the next words I'm going to say. Last year, I in 2024, I've gotten wind of, like many people did, of Project 2025, late to the game, getting this information, obviously, but it definitely stirred something in me. At the same time, anybody who knows me knows I'm big on history. I'm big on herstory. I'm always looking for, what is the historical context? How did our ancestors get us here with the same information? What did they have? What can we take from them? Where's the Sankofa, right? And so I'd already been. I also know that Ida B. Wells is my shero. She is one of my sheroes. And so I read her autobiography. I read some other things on her, but I have to say that in 2023, I began reading Paula Giddings' Sword Amongst Lions, and the biography of Ida B. Wells, and I saw how so much of what she and others of that time were fighting against, Frederick Douglass, all of those people, what they were fighting against and what remained, those same struggles remained hundreds of years later, right? And I honestly felt a little defeated, my God, if we've been doing this for 100 years, it made me question everything about the word legacy and what that means. The fact that so many ancestors, although we know their names now and we're pushing for them to be recognized in history, and we're bringing them out of the shadows and shining a light on what the history that's been hidden. So many, even people who are related, had no recognizance to remember, to hold space for the work that they've done, right? And we've gotten to a place where capitalism eradicated the need to honor their sacrifices and just push to get to this acceptance, right? And forget this resistance, this strong need to resist, this need to, that need to resist, replaced with this need to conform and assimilate. And I just looked at all of those who I look to as my sheroes: Fannie Lou Hamer, Ida B. Wells, Ella Baker. I looked at all of them and saw how they died on the battlefield. They died in the midst of a fight, in the midst of a struggle, in the midst of a battle, from things that, for all intents and purposes, was preventable, but brought on and probably exacerbated by chronic stress. And I'm telling y'all, in the middle of my pause from this platform, from this focusing, I'm a certified coach, overflow coach, life coach. As I said, I have my master's degree. Like, I'm a doer. I'm an accomplisher, right? I'm an achiever. I'm a problem solver. I'm a leader. I'm a convener. I'm a social architect, right? But I was burnt out. I was burnt out. Not only was I burnt out, I lost friends over this time period that I'm talking about. My very, very best friend was killed in a car accident in 2019. Another dear friend of mine, I should call their names. Tiffany Hamlet is my best friend, graduated with me from Simeon High School in Chicago. Another dear friend of mine, Dr. Tamara Holmes, passed away at the result of cancer. And when I tell you all that I had nothing. I wanted to sit and watch mindless television. I could tell you how many documentaries and TV shows and series I watched and got caught up on. I had to take a very deep pause, questioning, life and death, questioning, what do we continue to live for, accomplishments and achievements if one, our people are constantly oppressed and this authoritarian thing is happening, if this fascism is happening, if we are repressed and oppressed in this country, and even the work of our ancestors couldn't liberate us. If, people, and Dr. Tamara Holmes, if people like Dr. Tamara Holmes give their whole lives and make changes and free young people and give them hope and dreams for the future and introduce them and transform their lives and introduce them to these opportunities that are life-changing, if all of that can be undone by death, what is the point? I really was questioning that around this time last year. And the more I prayed and the more I meditated and the more I sat and continued to read all of my sheroes and read, just getting an understanding, it dawned on me very, very succinctly when God just was like, you know what? Everything you're consuming, all of the books, the reading, the documentaries that you're reading about, all of these things were created in the middle of extremism, in the middle of struggle, right? Woodrow Wilson, 1915, showing the birth of a nation in the White House and supporting the white knights and the KKK and the lynching and this barbarity that Ida B. Wells was talking about. She was living through that, and creativity, and she was creating and journaling, and there was all these other things, all this other art, Oscar Michaud, all of these other things were being created at that time. Harlem Renaissance is coming out at the time of all these different things. You got McCarthyism, but you got Harry Belafonte, Nina Simone, you got all of these, Paul Robeson, Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee fighting during McCarthyism and creating plays in the face of that. Who am I to shrink and shirk away from what I know to be my assignment? And not only shirk, but give into this fear and this silencing myself. Like I said, I muted myself because I did not identify with the 92%. Did not identify with the 92%. In fact, it was because Ida B. wasn't reading her work that I'm like, this whole system should be done away with. Needs to be dismantled. Needs to be completely deconstructed. But if you say that, right, especially 2024 during election cycle, if you say that you're not the 92%, if you say that, then you are a Trump supporter, or you want fascism, or you voting for this type of thing, you supporting that. When that's not the point at all. The point is all of it is hell. To continue to put lipstick on a pig doesn't make sense. Like, let's have the courage. Let's have the fortitude to say all of it is horrible. You can't support genocide all over the world and still say that, you know, this country is, the democracy and diplomacy of this country should be ruled, that you support rulers of this country who are feeding into that. You can't say that. You can't say when the policies that are in place, the corporate dollars that are feeding this machine that are oppressive, you can't say that you're for that, right? But I didn't want, like I said, I wanted peace for myself. I was done chronic stress of arguing, debating, proving, disproving. I didn't want any of that. And so the retreat for myself was to not even engage, to organize in sacred spaces offline with people who were doing the work, with educating myself more and staying curious and imagining. And I realized that my propensity to fight and to cuss somebody out and let somebody know what's what and who I am, that comes with a lot of stress, a lot of tension. That comes with a lot of wear and tear on my body, on my nervous system. Understanding one of the blessings of getting my master's degree was having to understand like the neuroscience and what happens in the brain with stress and trauma, and realizing that me having four of the aces, that I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not, this time of my life is not dedicated to fighting anything. This time of my life is preserving, is thriving, creating, imagining, right? And so that's where we are. That's where you are. That's where you're here with me for this. And so I'm excited about what's to come. I'm excited because creativity has just been like, as soon as I decided that I was no longer here to fight, as soon as I decided that, I'm telling y'all, the writer's block that I've been experiencing dissipated. Ideas just start coming. Oh my God, so much. Partnerships. Oh boy. Even last year, 2024 fall, I went to the National Association of Black American Studies, Women's Studies. Also menopause brain, but went there in Detroit, and y'all, oh my God, it gave me so much life. So much came from that. So many partnerships. It's just crazy that what 2025, how it had unfolded and brought me back to myself, brought me back to new ways, or introduced me to new ways of preservation and liberation. It's not, resistance doesn't have to be full of tension. Resistance can be free flowing, going into self and just going into the knowing and moving into what's natural and intrinsic and integral. And going into our old ways, even my tea that's sitting up here getting cold, which I love a good cup of tea. I had to sip that real quick, but even things like that, resting and sleeping and putting my feet in water and going to the beach and being in nature and all those things and loving on my husband and my children. Oh, by the way, my daughter, motherhood also, you would think with adult children that motherhood wouldn't, but motherhood really, I had to pronounce my motherhood more this year. My daughter is an emerging artist, performing artist with a viral song, 40 million streams, is crazy. If y'all haven't heard, it's Top of Cars, Lil Moo. But yeah, I saw the need to protect my daughter in a new industry, a new endeavor she was going in. And so I've been momager this year. That's also required some traveling. So this year has been, wow, it's not looked the way that it normally looks for me. It's not the, it's more the energy that's just, I like this. I have never had this in my life. And so I'm here. This is what I'm here for, and I'm here for it all. I'm enjoying this moment. I am enjoying the discovery. I'm enjoying not knowing it all. I'm enjoying just seeking out answers with no expectation to know the answer, and not feeling unworthy if I don't have the answer, but knowing that I'm just as valuable in the seeking of answers, in generating knowledge. So yeah, that's it. It is so much, y'all. I got so much that's coming. I'm so excited. Like a short film that I'm working on, research that I am working on. And did I tell y'all? I did not tell y'all this, but that song you heard, the intro to this, your girl wrote that. That is an AI generated song. I wrote that and, did my little thing in Suno and came up with a whole song, streaming on all the platforms, different versions. But that song had been written in 2018 when I wrote this book for my book signing, my book launch signing. I had wrote a song because I wanted my girl Tiviana Wiley, who is in the book as well, whose voice is like just everything. So I wanted Ty to sing a song. I was picturing it on the radio and everything, and I wrote it. And my husband, DJ B-Side, who was a producer, I'd been begging him to make me a beat to it. Never happened. And so AI made it possible for your girl to be a song creator, and I am. So yeah, leaning into AI. We'll have a whole, that's going to be an episode too about, the liberation work that we must do and leveraging AI in that liberation and really leveraging AI so that we are not yet again, as always, left to be consumers and exploited for our talent, but that we are actually harnessing our power through that. I know it's a lot of conversations around that. People got a lot of pushback, but I refuse to be left out of that. So that'll be conversations coming up. We'll have conversations about creating sacred space for Black women and Black girls and what that looks like. We're going to have conversations around lifting as we climb, talking about sheroes and the movements and the history and legacy of Black women that are often unsung and overlooked and erased. We're going to be talking about reparative philanthropy and what that looks like, equity and philanthropy, and shifting the whole game of what philanthropy looks like and funding our movements and mutual aid. We're going to be talking about healing and natural healing and ancestral healing. It's going to be a lot. So Stay tuned for more episodes. I hope you enjoyed this much. And I ask that you just sit with some of what I said and reflect for yourself on ways that you've needed to pause and to really pause and reflect on the ways that you've been showing up counterintuitively. Yeah. You've been showing up in ways that don't feel right for you, but what's expected of you, but don't align with you. Even now, I think of, this is if you're listening to this, this is the beginning of a new year, calendar year. But I'm not moved by the calendar year because it just doesn't feel natural to me. It's counterintuitive to how I feel and I operate. I'm not a get it done at the end of the year, start off with a bang, get the new year. Because honestly, I feel most alive and most renewed and like go for it around the time of my birthday. Like around September is when I feel like, oh, I'm all cylinders, like let's go. That's my new year. So yeah, I'm just not with the whole let's do it. And so I know that's for me. That may not be your situation, but there may be some cycles that you go through that don't align with what everybody else is doing. And sometimes it makes us feel so out of place. It makes us question, ourselves and make us try to fit into something that really causes us more stress and more strain and more death. It kills us just a little bit. I do believe that. And so what I am killing is my ego, death to it every single day. What I'm killing are these attachments to expectations and society's standards, and I'm leaning more into my imagination. I wanted to share some things with y'all because I've been also like just finding joy. Like I've been doing, like if it's not joyful, I don't want it at all. So let me just tell y'all, yes, even in the midst, I also had to work on myself with one thing too, because I have been feeling bad about not being vocal, not being present, not being out in the streets, not fighting, right? Physically fighting back against this tyranny and this fascism that's happened, that's overtaken our country and our everyday lives. And that has really been barbaric in the things that have been happening to people all around us. And so I was like, I felt a way like, am I really being true? Am I being a coward? I'm like, no, fuck that. No, I'm not. I'm being very brave because I'm not doing what is expected. I'm standing up for myself in a way that doesn't need to be confrontational, but it still preserves me. But here's some things, y'all. I'm telling y'all, these things are, it's just some little things on the internet that I love. First of all, I love Billy the Badass Horse on Instagram and TikTok. Oh my God. That horse and that his DJ Unique and her farm are everything. I'm loving it. I'm loving also all the Black farmers content. I'm loving all the Black cowboy, Black Wall Street, the horse. I'm going to a rodeo. Like I'm a horseback rider. I love riding horses. We had a rodeo here in Chicago. Shout out to Elliot and No Veteran Left Behind. They had a rodeo here on the south side of Chicago in last year, 2025. But I'm traveling to a rodeo next year for sure. Also, my daughter has a song out called Rodeo. Y'all need to stream that. Lil Moo, stream that. But I also have ADHD. So I'm all over the place. But I wanted to share some of the spaces that I really enjoy. One of them is at the handle is Loving, LOVIN 912. Y'all gotta watch her videos. It's so funny. The title was These Kids Are Bad, and she had posted that on November 28th. So y'all gotta watch that. I am James the Barber. He did a prank with his granddaddy, and it was so funny. Oh my God, it was hilarious. Just Niche is everything. She keeps me cracking up. And then this is kind of long, but it's shenanigans _of Karen _and _Gary. And that was mostly about dementia and her mom. So I'm saying that to say that, yes, times are intense. These are real times. This is not a game. We are definitely not in a drill. This is happening. Even now as I speak, we have kidnapped the leader of a sovereign nation and prompted airstrikes on several countries, sovereign countries. All of it are war crimes, illegal. If you think about it, you go crazy. Still, there's a way to resist that doesn't require you to take yourself out of here. And that is what I am intentional about. I refuse to take myself out of here for the things that I got here and will be here long after I'm gone. All I can do right now is make the space and time that I occupy better for myself, for my family, and for you. All right, y'all. I'll see you on the next episode of Move Beyond the Block. Remember that there's no block or condition you were born into that you can't move beyond. Peace.